Okay, so I like to call our original ballparks that we kind of hit spot by spot. I like to call them the first five. Uh, it was Houston, Texas up in Arlington, Boston, and then both in Chicago. Um, those were the first five that we just kind of spot hit, and then after that we started going on major road trips. We did uh, the East Coast, 9 parks in 9 days. West Coast, 7 parks in 9 days, and then did the Midwest, which was like 5 and 7 days, and then we did a Florida run, which was we spent a little bit more time on, but it was about 3 parks in probably about 10 days, and then we went up to Toronto. Yeah, so first five, I mean, Houston was the first one, so I mean, I grew up here, I grew up in Houston. I can't really speak to tourist attractions because we didn't really do anything. We just kind of went down there that day and went to the game. But in terms of Arlington, I mean, I can't really speak to Arlington because that was so long ago. I was 11 years or 10 or 11 years old, and I don't really remember much of it. But Chicago and Boston, Boston first. Boston, you can go in Faneuil Hall. There's several historic sites that you can go and visit in Boston. In terms of Chicago, there's the Sears Tower. There's Chicago's big on deep dish pizza, so you can go and get pizza somewhere. And I think we went to 2 or 3 while we were in Chicago. But those are the main things I do in those cities. Okay, so the East Coast trip was 9 parks in 9 days, and it was Detroit to I think we finished up in Pittsburgh, but we kind of went in a circle. And some things that kind of just stood out were I think I mean I can remember that we almost got our heads knocked off by a foul ball, but in the city and cities in general. Cleveland had a couple of Hall of Fames, or near or in Cleveland. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and then I think it was on the way to Cincy, we stopped in Canton and went to the Football Hall of Fame. And then after that, we did Baltimore and Washington. Washington is just a hotbed for tourist attractions, and uh, same with New York. I mean, you go to New York and you're in a tourist trap already. And then in terms of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, again, U.S. history, going through all the old stuff. Pittsburgh has some good stuff, but I mean, Pittsburgh was our last. So the West Coast trip, that's another hotbed. Uh, we drove up from Arizona to Seattle all the way up. So, I mean, pretty much everything. You got the Hollywood sign, you got the Walk of Fame, you've got, a couple of like natural sites like the ravine and, just the La Brea tar pits. You got a bunch of stuff that you can go and visit. It's kind of hard to miss everything when you're driving through California and up to Seattle. Yeah, so the Midwest trip, we that one was 6 parks, and we'd gone to a repeat park, and then so we went back to Chicago. But after that, we did like Colorado, St. Louis, Kansas City, and I think in Kansas City we stopped by the Negro League Hall of Fame. That one was kind of cool, but kind of disappointing because we couldn't take pictures. We got to kind of see the history with it. I think my granddad used to be a bus driver with Satchel Paige at one point. So it was kind of cool to see the history of the Negro Leagues and kind of get the view on that from the Hall of Fame. Yeah, so that run, Atlanta to Miami, we drove straight from Houston. So, I mean, it was just a long haul. But in Atlanta, I remember that it was a fairly new park, and like the city center was right by the park. So, literally everything to do downtown was literally like within a couple hundred feet of the park. Tampa, I just remember that being how do I put it? Um, I just remember that being the worst park I visited. I didn't want to say anything bad, but I just remember Tampa being really bad. Miami, been there a couple of times, or near there a couple of times. Miami in particular, I volunteered at the MLB AllStar Game, and that had been the second time I had actually done it, and I ended up doing it a third time. So I got to interact with a bunch of people and kind of be around the game for a span of about 5 days each time I did that. Oh hell yeah! So my first trip to Fenway. I'm a big Red Sox fan. My first trip to Fenway, Big Papi David Ortiz hit a home run to center field. I was 12 years old. I remember going absolutely crazy, high-fiving people I just met, hugging my brother who had no idea what was going on, just being super pumped. And I mean, a 12-year-old kid in his first game at Fenway, or first trip to Fenway, was just an adventure in itself. Outside of that, Game 4 of the 2018 ALCS in Houston, the most stressful game I've ever been to, and I think I'll ever go to. Red Sox were up, I think it was 8-6 in the ninth, but the Astros had the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs. I want to say it was Carlos Correa hit a line shot to left field. My dad and I were sitting down the left field line, and we're like, oh no, here we go. The game's either going to be tied or it's going to be over. And Andrew Benintendi, who has since been traded, unfortunately, made a diving catch right in front of our faces, literally maybe 100 feet in front of us. And we just kind of stood there and we're like, what just happened? What, did he catch it? And he got up and screamed and yelled, and we're the only Red Sox fans in that entire section, probably 250 Astros fans, and we're all going, yes, yes, and we feel like we're about to get beat up, but it was a fun experience. We had to get out of there kind of quick though. Yeah, so the majority of them were, all road trips. I mean, we didn't fly anywhere. We flew into the first spot, but for the most part, it was all driving. So we spent hours in a car together, which can get kind of rough. But you go and we would go and visit, so many different things that I think experiencing all that stuff together definitely made us closer. Yeah, so we've got souvenir cups at all the places. For me specifically, because I've done the volunteer work, I've gotten stuff from them, and I've gotten a couple of signed baseballs from players. I remember going to spring training one year and getting a signed baseball by Xander Bogaerts, Christian Vasquez, John Farrell, I believe, and then Torey Lavillo, who's now the manager of the Diamondbacks. Yeah, so working the All-Star Games with MLB, I've met quite a few. Uh, just off the top of my head, not at an All-Star game, didn't meet, but interacted with David Ortiz, Big Papi, who's my favorite player of all time. His last game in Houston, my dad and I were screaming at him, Big Papi, look over here! And he ended up looking over and waving at us, and I went crazy. And I think I was 19 at the time, but I felt like a little kid. But outside of stadiums, or actually I'll keep it inside stadiums, I met Todd Frazier at a White Sox game, interacted with him, took a picture with him. He was cool. But he just had to get going real quick because he was taking pictures with everybody, and he just wanted to get going. But I didn't really get to talk to him. But going into my volunteering with AllStar Games and stuff, I have met a bunch of people. I've met Paul Goldschmidt, who went to my high school, which is really interesting to me. And I've met Dennis Martinez. I've met been in close proximity to Trevor Hoffman. Didn't actually meet him, but I got to interact with him a little bit. On the softball side, Jenny Finch and Lisa Fernandez, who are two legends of the softball game. I got to meet them. Fred Lynn, player for the Sox back in the 70s. Got to meet him and get his autograph, so that was cool. So that's off the top of my head, I think those are the guys and girls I can think of. Yeah, so my dad keeps track of all that stuff. I don't, I mean, I keep track of it on my phone, like what games I've gone to, and I do that for every sport, but baseball, I've got probably 40 or 50 games in there that I just have the ending score. I don't actually have like the whole box score and everything, but there is an app called the MLB Ballpark app that'll let you, keep track of all the stats, and it has it all there for you. So I have that too, but I don't really, by myself, keep track of the stats. Yeah, so planning. I mean, you can't really plan for weather. Luckily, we never had any weather problems. But there's a lot that goes into planning a 9-day road trip to hit 9 ballparks. You can't really hit any road bumps. You gotta kind of do that. I would recommend if you go to I think most of the stadiums we didn't buy tickets in advance. We just walked up that day and bought tickets. But if you're going to a place like New York, Boston, um, any of those big places that draw crowds, you're going to want to buy tickets in advance. But traveling wise, outside of the stadiums, if you're going on a long road trip like we did, hit as many landmarks and as many attractions as you can. That's my main one. Don't make it just baseball, because if you make it just baseball, it can get kind of boring even for the most avid baseball fan.
Right.